Here, this is for you, Mom. Emma said so, but then in the next moment, she flipped the stew onto the floor. What? It was the first time my son, Michael's family had come over to our house. I was preparing dinner with Stella, my daughter-in-law, and Emma, my 3-year-old granddaughter. But then Emma, instead of placing the stew at Stella's seat, deliberately spilled it on the floor. It wasn't because she tripped or slipped. She clearly did it on purpose. Wasting food like that. Why would you do something like this? I couldn't help but scold Emma harshly. Because I thought it was easier for Mom to eat. Startled by being scolded, Emma said, crying and shaken. Easier to eat? I couldn't believe Emma's words and unconsciously repeated them. Mom always eats on the floor. What do you mean? Sobbing, Emma tried to explain. Hearing Emma's surreal words, I looked at Stella to question her. Seeing Stella with a pale face and her shoulders shrunken, I felt she was hiding something. Good morning. Today, as always, while looking at the portrait of my deceased husband, I greeted. I have been living alone since my husband Ian passed away a few years ago. The expression on Ian's face in the portrait is grumpy, with a deep furrow between his brows. Thinking back, I hardly ever saw him smile during his lifetime. Our marriage was arranged, and from the beginning, we were careful with each other. We barely spoke, each of us strictly keeping to our roles. A happy marriage seemed far from achievable, and we never went out together even on holidays. At that time, I didn't have friends to call my own, and of course, it was a time when there were no mobile phones, so I came to think that's just what marriage was. Ian would lock himself in his room or go out alone on weekends, coming back late at night. And sometimes we wouldn't even talk at home, always an icy atmosphere prevailing. Yet, my in-laws were persistent in wanting to see a grandchild. Suspecting illness due to the lack of childbirth news, they urged me to go to the hospital repeatedly. Ian, for his part, seemed annoyed being nagged, shared the bedroom with me just for one night. Luckily, I became pregnant and decided to pour all my love into raising the child. Ian showed no interest even as my belly grew, mercilessly assigning me household chores even when I was immobilized by morning sickness and wasn't even there for the birth of our child. When I was too exhausted and asked Ian for help, he dismissed me by saying he was busy. However, when our son Michael was born, Ian changed as if he were a different person and actively involved himself in parenting. For the first time, Ian suggested we go shopping together with Michael. What kind of picture books should we read to Michael? I couldn't hide my joy and spoke to Ian more than usual. Wouldn't this outfit look nice on him? Contrary to my excitement, Ian still had an angry look. He hardly responded and dismissed all my choices with a sigh and told me that he would decide everything. I wanted us to cooperate in parenting, but Ian rejected everything I tried to do or say. Only a man can understand what a boy needs. And eventually, even when feeding Michael, he said he wanted to focus on the meal, so he moved to a separate room. Ian was quite strict about everything from how to hold a fork and a knife and to the order of eating. It took 6 months before Ian approved of Michael's eating manners and allowed him to eat with me. The first time I saw Michael eat, I was astonished by how neatly he did it. He never complained or showed weakness, focusing solely on his studies and not playing with friends. Michael, well done. Why don't you take a break sometimes? I tried to comfort Michael with some cake as a snack while Ian was away. Sweets aren't good for the body. He refused without even glancing my way. As Michael entered high school, he joined the baseball team, wanting to train his spirit, and became a star pitcher of the team. Even after that, thanks to his disciplined effort, he tackled everything with all his might and graduated top of his class from a prestigious university known for its difficulty. Raised by the strict Ian, Michael grew up to be so graceful in his movements that people passing by on the streets would stop and stare. It seems he was even approached by several women for dates. I once saw Michael sighing to himself. Michael, isn't there someone you're interested in? I find it more meaningful to spend my time honing myself, rather than romance. His response to my casual question was marked by an even deeper sigh. Eventually, Michael made neither friends nor lovers, always a lone wolf, establishing himself as an object of admiration from afar. After university, he landed a job at a major publishing company, enviable to many. The publishing company kept him busy, and Michael lived a life of constant business trips, hardly ever returning home. He woke up early every morning and returned home on the last train. With such a lifestyle, he had no chance for encounters, dedicating his days to work alone. Even the formidable Ian would be asleep by the time Michael came home, so I secretly prepared snacks for him. A man's body is his capital. Ian had always fed Michael a perfect meal of one soup and one dish, and so he was forbidden snacks, especially midnight snacks. However, no matter how balanced the diet, it was clear that the hard-working Michael was gradually losing weight due to insufficient nutrition. He's going to collapse if he keeps this up. Michael initially refused the midnight snack, wanting to go to bed early. But one day, after exchanging such words several times, Michael's stomach growled loudly, cutting off his words. "The stew is ready." I said, "I want to go to sleep." "See, the stomach doesn't lie," I gently told Michael, who turned bright red and looked down. "Is it really okay for me to eat?" "Of course. I made it for that reason." "Thank you." With a slightly trembling voice, Michael carefully brought the spoon to his mouth. Then, with his spoon in his mouth, Michael froze. "Michael, what's wrong?" "It's delicious." It seemed the taste was shockingly good for Michael. He devoured the steaming stew, even asking for seconds. After finishing 3 plates, Michael showed a smile I had never seen before. "Ah, this is the best feeling. I didn't know there was something this delicious. You've worked hard every day. I'll prepare a snack for you tomorrow night too." From that day on, Michael began to eat the midnight snacks I prepared with curiosity. Thanks to that, Michael's weight returned to normal, unbeknownst to Ian. The time for midnight snacks, the only time Michael and I spent together, became the time I also looked forward to as well. "Mom, what's for tonight's snack?" "Tonight, it's ramen." "Ramen? I've been wanting to try that." For Michael, who had never eaten out, the midnight snacks I made were all first-time experiences. Every time, Michael would light up like a child and eagerly eat up the meal. And so, seeing Michael off to work in the morning as usual became part of my daily routine. Michael, having regained his health, made significant progress at work, becoming regarded as the star in the company. This led to a series of invitations from women, it seems. Seeing this, Ian, perhaps unable to stand it, recommended an arranged marriage, and quickly, the discussions concluded, and Michael ended up getting married without any prior dating experience. Michael married Stella, a woman who worked as a secretary to the president of a famous company. Though she was of a quiet demeanor, she appeared to be a polite, serious person. "I am inexperienced, so I ask for your kindness." At our first meeting during the introduction, Stella greeted us politely, a rarity these days. "I will do my best to be a good wife and support Michael." Stella smiled softly, narrowing her beautiful eyes, and I thought she looked as beautiful as a blossoming flower. "We're going to be family, so don't hesitate to rely on us for anything." Happy as if I had gained a daughter, I exchanged contact information with Stella and told her so. Stella, coming from a family that lived a bit far away, nodded happily to my words. "Thank you very much. It's very reassuring." Then, the newlyweds moved to the neighboring town. Anticipating they might have a lot of unfamiliar things to deal with in their new life, I decided to frequently send messages via mobile phone. However, when I asked if they needed any help, Stella, who was already domestic and skilled in household chores, seemed to have quickly won over Michael's heart. It appeared Michael often had to go on business trips due to work, but they seemed to get along well, going shopping together on holidays. Not only that, but Stella also took care of me by giving me candies when I had a sore throat or recommending a good plaster when I mentioned I had hurt my back, always considerate towards me. She would quickly reply to my messages, so I thought there was no need to worry. When I told Ian about Michael and Stella, he nodded as if to say, of course, making me completely at ease. I'm happy to see them so happy. Michael and Stella were blessed with a daughter named Emma in their 4th year of marriage, bringing me great joy. And I think even Ian softened a bit. However, life doesn't always continue happily. Before Emma turned 2, my Ian suddenly collapsed. Ian, who had lived a life rarely seen smiling, seemed to have been unknowingly harboring stress. By the time he was advised to be hospitalized, it was too late, and cancer had spread throughout his body. And so, Ian passed away, leaving us behind. After the funeral, as I started living alone, messages from Stella, which used to come frequently, gradually became scarce. Even when I offered to help with childcare, I was gently refused, not wanting me to go through the trouble. It started after Ian's funeral. Stella suddenly began acting strangely, and when I inquired about Emma or their life, her responses were curt, and sometimes there was no reply at all. She wouldn't answer phone calls, and I worried every day. Feeling the distance between Stella, Emma, and myself, time passed, and before I knew it, Emma was 3. Thinking at least for Emma's 3rd birthday, I decided to send a message about having a meal at my house. Happy 3rd birthday to Emma! Have you gotten used to parenting? Yes, thank you. It's been a while since we've seen each other. How about a meal at my place? No, thank you. Stella's cold reply made me sigh. I haven't had much to look forward to since I became alone. I want to celebrate my first grandchild's 3rd birthday. After sending such a message, perhaps my feelings got through, as she curtly replied, "All right, we'll go." I had doubts about Stella's sudden consent, but the joy of meeting Emma soon dispelled them. And finally, the day of the family meal arrived. Stella, it's been a while. I greeted Stella and her somewhat tense family with a smile. Sierra, it's been a while. Thank you for inviting us today. Wondering if they were nervous after such a long time, I let them into my house. Come on, Emma, say hello to Grandma. Emma, who had been shyly hiding behind Stella, came forward quietly when encouraged and bowed politely. Grandma, hello. Contrary to Stella's uneasy and somber demeanor, Emma greeted me with a bright smile. Emma, hello. I made stew today, let's eat together. Yay! I love stew. It was the first time I had seen Emma since she was just a baby. I was worried she might be shy, but Emma's cheerful and innocent demeanor lifted some of my anxiety. However, Stella, hunched over and unusually vigilant, was not the Stella I knew. She used to be considerate and attentive to her surroundings. While I was concerned about Stella, I decided to wait and see, understanding she might have things she didn't want to talk about. Where's Michael? Stella, looking unsettled, scanned the inside of the house. Oh, Michael will be coming directly from his business trip, so he'll be late. I received a message. Stella, you didn't know? That's right. I'm sorry, I might have missed the message. Stella seemed relieved for a moment and hastily checked her mobile phone as if to hide her expression. I'm sorry, I had a message too. I can't believe I missed it. I feel like a failure as a wife. Stella's blue face and the way she berated herself seemed excessive to me. The message had just come in, so there was no need to worry so much. However, I didn't press further in front of Emma. It's not your fault, it's okay. Sit down, and I'll reheat the stew. Sorry. Her voice was so low I had to ask again. Stella, did you say something? Nothing, it's nothing. Stella seemed even more withdrawn, making me feel she was hiding something from me. It was just a hunch, but these intuitions often prove correct. I'll help you carry it. Emma ran over with an innocent smile, cutting through the tense atmosphere. Oh, thank you. But stay back from the stove, it's dangerous. Emma's offer to help was impressively mature for a 3-year-old. Stella, meanwhile, sat down hesitantly and stared solemnly at her spoon. Here you go, be careful, it's hot. Okay. Emma energetically took her plate and slowly walked over to Stella. And then, here, this is for you, Mom. Emma said, and in the next moment, did something unbelievable. What? Emma deliberately spilled the stew on the floor instead of placing it at Stella's seat. It wasn't because she tripped or slipped. She clearly did it on purpose. Why would you do something like this? Wasting food. I couldn't help but scold Emma harshly. Because it's easier for Mom to eat. Surprised by the scolding, Emma said, crying and shaken. Easier to eat? I couldn't believe Emma's words and repeated them unconsciously. Mom always eats on the floor. Eating on the floor? What do you mean? Mom always eats on the floor because Dad makes her. Emma tried to explain, sobbing. Hearing Emma's surreal words, I looked at Stella, who was trembling and pale. Stella, what's going on? Just as Stella was about to speak, the doorbell rang, and Michael appeared at the entrance. Despite the awkward timing, I quickly cleaned up the spilled stew and welcomed Michael in. I'm home. Did something happen? Michael seemed puzzled by the delay between the doorbell and the door opening. Welcome back. I couldn't leave the stove. I tried to act normally, hiding my agitation. I see, is that stew I smell? Yes, your favorite stew. I felt relieved I had made stew and breathed a sigh of relief. Unaware of anything, Michael cheerfully entered the living room, ignoring Stella's distress and sat down with a thud. Nothing beats Mom's stew. Michael spoke loudly while Stella bit her lip tightly. Feeling the tense atmosphere between them, I forced a smile, struggling to maintain a facade. I was skeptical about Michael making her eat on the floor, but I sensed their relationship wasn't good. The conversation remained superficial, the stew tasted bland, but somehow, the meal ended peacefully. After the Michael family left, I messaged Stella about the incident. The only reply I got was it's nothing. It can't be nothing. I murmured quietly to the mobile phone screen, reflecting on our interactions. Stella's messages have been cold lately. The distant replies didn't seem like they were coming from the caring Stella I knew. Thinking about the incident made me wonder if Michael was controlling her phone. I can't overlook what just happened. I need to check on things myself. With that thought, I decided to visit Michael's house. Even though it's spring, it was already dusk. I shivered in the cold air as I approached their house. Just then, I heard a loud argument. It's your fault. What? That was Michael's voice. Panicked, I pressed the doorbell. Michael, with a forced smile, greeted me. Mom, we just said goodbye. What brings you back? I need to talk to Stella. What? Well, Stella's tired from the visit. I'll pass the message. Michael blocked my way, visibly flustered. This is an important matter between women. My firm tone left Michael with no choice but to let me in. Stella? Looking around inside, I noticed the bathroom light was on. I'm going in. As I headed to the bathroom, Michael hurried after me, panicking. Stella's in there, you can't go in now. But I entered the bathroom before Michael could stop me. And what I saw was unexpected. Stella! Stella was in the shower, drenched, sitting on the floor. Sierra. I was cleaning the shower and accidentally turned it on myself. Stella weakly smiled as she spoke to me. This is terrible, you'll catch a cold. After finding a towel, I wrapped Stella in it, drying her hair and arms. I can't believe this. Sorry, Mom, Stella always messes up when I'm not watching. Michael didn't even attempt to get a towel, instead crossing his arms with an angry look. Stella was in a daze, quietly letting me help her. Seeing Stella's slight shivers, I couldn't deny Emma's words were true. Stella, I've dried you off somewhat, but you need to change immediately. Sierra, I'm sorry. Thank you. Always like this. Stella can't do anything without me. Michael complained, but Stella's fear was evident. Pretending to use the bathroom, I discreetly called the police, and soon the doorbell rang, signaling their arrival. Who's that? Michael answered reluctantly. We received complaints about loud noises from this house. the officer said, to which Michael lied about a misunderstanding. The officer insisted on speaking with us after checking the neighborhood. Today's a bad day. Scratching his head, Michael opened the door. 3 officers entered swiftly, one securing Stella and Emma while the others restrained Michael. What? Michael resisted desperately, but the officers were unfazed. What the hell? What did I do? He knew he couldn't fight off the police, but he still tried to make himself loose. To that the police said in a low voice, "If you don't calm down, you're obstructing the execution of our duties." Michael turned pale and suddenly became quiet. Meanwhile, Stella, overwhelmed by the sudden events, saw the subdued Michael and burst into tears. Looking at me and the officers, she spoke quietly. "I can't take it anymore." Stella revealed her pent-up frustrations. "As soon as we got married, he submitted my resignation without my consent. I protested to the CEO, but no one believed me." Rumors had spread that Stella complained about her low salary and was unhappy with the CEO, none of which were true. Ultimately, her resignation was accepted despite her objections. Life became hell after I became a housewife. First, her mobile phone was taken away. In her unfamiliar married life, it seems Stella had many things she wanted to discuss with me or her parents, but Michael wouldn't listen. Especially about meals. Whatever I cooked was always criticized as bad. I wanted to ask Sierra for recipes, but was told to figure it out on my own. At first, it was just verbal criticisms, so Stella thought she could bear it. Things got worse when Emma was born. He did help with childcare, but... Michael appeared to be a kind and good father to Emma, but his verbal abuse towards Stella in her presence increased. After Ian passed, the harassment intensified. Verbal abuse became a routine. Stella was ordered to eat meals on the floor and endured days of being overworked by Michael. When they went shopping, she was only allowed to buy what Michael specified, limiting her outings to the bare essentials. Any slight dissatisfaction from Michael, like a lightly cleaned area or a wrinkled shirt, resulted in Stella being doused with cold shower. Using water as a means of harassment left no physical marks. I had no one to turn to, it was so hard. Tears fell again from Stella's eyes. She confirmed my suspicions of her suffering under Michael's harassment. "You've been enduring all alone. It must have been so hard." I regretted not noticing the signs earlier. As I comforted Stella, I reflected on my actions. Michael faced interrogation after everything was revealed. During the interrogation, Michael sat arrogantly, denying any wrongdoing. An officer, unable to overlook Michael's behavior, pressed him hard. Why Stella acted fearfully around Michael, and the reason Emma naturally spilled the stew on the floor were questioned. Even without visible marks, harassment traces could be investigated with modern medical technology, the officer sternly stated. Finally cornered, Michael confessed. "I've been under a lot of stress." Michael murmured as if speaking to himself. He resented the strict discipline enforced by his father since childhood. He was strictly told about the order of the meal he ate and the right size he was supposed to eat in one bite. "You can't even do this." Harsh scoldings for minor mistakes were part of his upbringing. Forced to learn kanji and English at a young age, Michael was made to revise tirelessly for any mistakes. In elementary school, while peers enjoyed games, Michael was sent to unwanted lessons and cram schools. He revealed his dissatisfaction with all of it. In high school, he was forced into a strict baseball team, despite having no interest. "The first time I played soccer during a break, I found it incredibly fun, but my father never allowed me to switch to the soccer team." I was shocked by Michael's words. I trusted Ian to take care of meals in another room, never questioning it, and rejoiced at Michael's academic and extracurricular diligence. "All the times you were working so hard, it wasn't because you enjoyed those activities." I didn't know Michael loved soccer and I was unaware of his interactions with Ian. I was just preparing lunches every day without knowing anything about my family. "I had no idea you felt that way, Michael." It's natural for you not to know. He said it was a man's promise and made me keep quiet. Michael, adeptly trained mentally, easily maintained composure without my knowledge. He didn't enjoy studying either. He was restricted from popular student activities like gaming and fashion interests. And even his love for sweets was limited. Ultimately, an arranged marriage decided by Ian added to his growing resentment. Having the marriage arranged without his consent, Michael seemed to have started feeling indifferent about everything. Even after getting married and moving away, the pressure of being married to someone chosen by Dad made him feel monitored, and the curse lifted only after Dad's death. I became obsessed with the idea that Stella should strive just like me. That was how Michael concluded. I thought I had raised Michael together with Ian. I had no inkling Michael was enduring such hardship behind my back. The guilt and powerlessness overwhelmed me. Despite Michael and Ian keeping silent, I bear responsibility for not noticing. Stella, this isn't something an apology can fix, but it was my fault for raising him poorly. I'm truly sorry. No. I'm the one who should apologize for not being able to heal Michael's heart. Stella's words, ever so kind, made tears spill from my eyes. Stella, you've done nothing wrong. I'm truly sorry for everything. Afterward, Michael was arrested for assault. Having shared his burdens, he seemed somewhat relieved. He will now have time to reflect and make amends. Stella decided to divorce Michael, taking Emma back to her parents' home. Sierra, thank you for everything. I haven't done anything worthy of your thanks. I decided to support Stella and Emma financially in Michael's stead. Initially hesitant, Stella accepted after I expressed a desire to maintain a good relationship. I'm sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable. I'll always consider you as my family. Thank you. Having a relationship with you and Emma is a great comfort to me. Stella, having settled into her new life, seemed to regain her bright smile. I regularly received photos of Stella and Emma. She also invites me several times a year to visit Emma. Sierra, would you like to come over sometime? Emma misses you. Seasons have cycled through peaceful days since the incident. Emma started going to elementary school and even visited my house alone. Exactly, Emma, you're doing great. I was teaching Emma how to make hamburgers during one of her visits. Grandma, this is fun. Emma showed a carefree smile, shaping the hamburgers perfectly. Indeed, it's fun. It'd be nice if Mom could join us next time. Yeah. I'll make a lot. I deeply cherished these moments of happiness. Relieved that Michael hadn't inflicted lasting wounds on Emma, I wished for her to always be smiling. As we placed her small hamburgers in the pan, her eyes sparkled with anticipation for the completion of the meal. May your life be filled with smiles from now on. I whispered, as if making a vow.